All right, today we are going to discuss the PMO dashboard for this Cosmos Campfire. If you have any questions during this demonstration, please feel free to enter them in the chat or the Q&A box at any time. I'll be more than happy to answer questions while we're going through as well. All right. My name is Lexi. I've been with Aprika for a couple of years now and in the Salesforce ecosystem for a little over 4 years. I am a senior customer success rep, so you most likely will deal with me with regards to cases or trainings and different things like that. On the agenda today, we're going to review the objectives, what we're looking to gain from this demonstration of the PMO dashboard. And then before we get into the live demonstration within Mission Control, I do want to review a couple of the following points so that we better understand the component before we jump in. And so we'll discuss understanding the values of using the PMO dashboard, some key performance indicators, some data points and calculations and how it all breaks down. And then some required setup and project financials, because there's a bit of information involved and it's located in different places. So we'll take a look at that, of course, when we jump into the demo. And then lastly, we'll open up for questions and it doesn't have to relate specifically to the PMO dashboard after we get through the demo, if anyone has any pending questions. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into these objectives. So we'll really want to understand how to identify different setup and configuration for the PMO dashboard, the fields on the different objects that contribute to these calculations, and also some use cases, the meaning of the CPI and SPI, and then really identifying how the breakpoints are used. So what is the PMO dashboard? The PMO dashboard provides you an overall cost performance index and scheduled performance index. So that's budget and scheduled related indexes for your projects. But we also track this on your milestones and actions. So what you can do is view different phases of your projects and view maybe some areas where your tasks aren't being done on time, so you're not recognizing the revenue as you're required to. All right, so let's understand the values. The CPI and the SPI ratings are based on a scale of 1. So if you view your project and you're seeing a setting close to 1 or equal to 1, then you're running exactly how you've planned. Your resources are logging their time when you're expecting them to. Your actions are being completed when you're expecting them to, and you're recognizing the amount of revenue. If it is greater than 1, then you are going ahead of plan. So you're ahead of budget and ahead of schedule on your project. And then lastly, if it's less than 1, then you're not getting the revenue that you're expecting when you're expecting to receive it. So the CPI and SPI values will be colored red, amber, or green based on the breakpoints that you set. So for instance, if I have a project that has a CPI of 0.7 or less, I want that to be colored red so that I can know that I need to action that project in some way. All right, so getting into those performance indicators. The 4 key performance indicators that we've used to evaluate the calculations are the planned value, earned value, actual cost, and recognized revenue. So that planned value is what we've scheduled for the project, when we schedule our tasks, and also who we assign those tasks to, because you might have different cost rates and billing rates for your different resources and things like that. And then as we are progressing the project, are we earning the amount of billable and expending the amount of costs that we are expecting to as well. And then actual cost, this is going to be regarding the rates and values that the resources are contributing. So we'll take a look at all of this, and then our recognized revenue. So what can we recognize that we have collected as revenue on the project? Starting with planned value, this is the percentage of revenue that you plan to earn during the period, and is based on the action start date to the end of the week that you're viewing. So all of these calculations for planned value would be based off the number of working days for the period to the end of that week, and the divided by the total amount of working days for the entire action. So between the start and the end date, how many working days do I have scheduled? And then that is times by the scheduled billable value. And that value is going to roll up once you get your rates and your hours assigned on your project according to your resources as well. And then next, we're going to break this down in an example. So if I have an action on my project that accounts for $1,200 in revenue, and it has a start date of the 21st of September and an end date of the 30th of September, the total working days for this action is 8. If the master date is set to September 26th, then the evaluation period is the first week of the action. So if I set the master date on September 26th when I'm viewing the PMO dashboard, then the evaluation period would be around the end of the 21st. So of course, this depends on if it starts on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. So in this calculation, I have a total number of 5 working days, or Monday through Friday is what I'm assuming. And then the total working days for the action is 8. So we're evaluating the first week of the action, which is the 5 working days. And then the total action is 8 working days. So based on the hours scheduled billable value for the action, which is a total of $1,200, then I'm going to assume by the 5th working day, I should have $750 collected in revenue. So by the end of that first week, as my resource is logging their time, I should have a total of $750 of the total $1,200. Okay, getting into earned value. So we've discussed the planned. Now we are going to discuss how much has been earned. And the formula for this is based off your completion percentage on your actions. Now with your completion percentage, you can have it automate. We already have an automation to populate your completion percentage as your users are logging time. However, if you have your own calculation of completion percentage, then there is an option to manually populate your completion percentage. So there's a bit of flexibility with that part. But the formula for this is your completion percentage times your actual scheduled billable value. All right, so an example of this is if I have completed 40% of an action and it has a scheduled value of $1,200, then the earned value is $480. So 40% of the total value of my action. And then we'll actually identify the cost the cost of the revenue that has already been accounted for in achieving the current completed hours, or the sum of the completed billable value on the time logs. So the time log information will roll up to your action. So if there's a collection of time logs with hours completed billable value, all of them relating to that action will be evaluated in this formula. So you'll get your hours completed times your billable hourly rate. So this is what's actually occurring based on the rates that we have assigned to the resources or the project in general. So for this example, if I've logged a total of 4 hours and my billable hourly rate is $120, then the actual amount of revenue that I would have collected would be $480. So that's for a total of 4 hours times my rate for my action. And then lastly, breaking down that recognized revenue. This will calculate how much of the revenue that is due to be earned has been recognized so far. So based on the completion percentage, if the project, and this is also based on billing type, if you have like a fixed price project and this is calculated on completion percentage, otherwise it will reference your hours completed. So similar to that actual cost and earned value, you have two different methods of that. So the formula would be hours completion percentage times your scheduled billable value, or your completion percentage times your hours completed billable value. And that would be your actual amount of hours times your billing rate for your completed value. All right, so an example of this, if we are working on a fixed price project and the action budget is $1,200 and the completion percentage is 75%, then the recognized revenue is $900. Okay. Now, getting into the definition of your CPI and SPI before we jump into the demonstration, your CPI will account for your cost performance. So that is going to relate to your scheduled revenue. And this calculation takes your earned value and the actual cost. So you will be dividing your earned value by the actual cost of the rates and hours completed. So an example of this, if we have an action with the following values, $1,200 scheduled billable value, 40% complete, an hourly rate of $120, and 4 hours complete, then our calculation will be broke down like this. Our earned value would be $480, so that's that completion percentage times my scheduled value. My actual cost based on the hours completed, which were 4, times my billable rate of 120 is also equal to $480. So my earned value, so my cost performance index will equal 1 because my earned value and my actual cost is the same. And that means my project is running according to plan. Now with my scheduled performance, this will identify how my project is performing against the scheduled timeline. So are my resources logging their time as they're needing to? And the earned value and planned value are also used in this calculation. So it would be your actual earned value divided by planned value. So that's your completion percentage being involved this time instead of the hours completed. So in this SPI calculation, we're going to take a look at an action that has the same amount of scheduled value, 1,200, and a completion percentage of 40%. But this time we're taking a look at the working days. So the working days in the period that is being evaluated, so the week, divided by the total working days for this action. And when we take a look at the calculations, so for earned value, I have a completion percentage of 40%, and I'll times that by my scheduled value, which is $480. For my planned value, I have the calculation for working days this period divided by my total working days times my scheduled billable value. So the amount of hours being logged for those working days, or the duration of my action times my billable value. And that is telling me that I should recognize $750 by my scheduled 5 days. So with this, if I've completed 5 of the 8 times my billable value, scheduled billable value, then my calculation comes to 0.64. So my $480 divided by the planned value of $750, which is 0.64. So it's behind the scheduled performance that I'm expecting during this period. All right. So some key fields on our actual records that are important for the PMO dashboard would be the display on PMO dashboard field. So that's going to basically select which projects are shown on the dashboard. There are fields and options to view your SPI and CPI on your project milestone and action record. But if you want to get an overall view of multiple projects, you'll have to mark this field true. You'll also want to make sure that your project budget is set. You have scheduled all of your hours on your actions, and then that you've established a certain amount of hours per day. So this will help to define our working days for our actions. The next thing you'll want to do is set up your project financials. So you'll want to select a billing type, if it's fixed price, if it's time and materials, if it's deposit to T&M, basically how you're going to collect your revenue. And then your billing cycle. So during what periods or when during your project cycle are you collecting your revenue? You'll also want to establish your billing and your cost rate. So there's a few different options for that, and we'll go over that once we start setting up our project. But this will basically tell your project or tell the system where to pull your rate from. So I might have, for a time and material project, my rate being pulled from my roles records. I'll need to establish that on my project details. Or if there are skills involved, you might have skills as your billing rate. And then there are a few more options there as well. Some key fields on the action would be your completion percentage. And we've seen that's involved in a lot of the planned and earned values and things like that. And then you also want to make sure you have your start and end dates populated. So that's what's going to determine your working days and different things like that for your actions. And then lastly, when your users or your resources are logging time, the date stamp of that time log is pretty important, as that will determine when you've collected your revenue and then the hours completed. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this in Mission Control. So some initial setup that you'll want to do for the PMO dashboard is turn on your action progress tracking. So that will collect all of the completion percentages from your actions and other details that are used in the calculations. And then you'll also want to scroll down to your custom settings and define your hours per day, which is used in your working days, and your PMO dashboard red and green breakpoints. So if you have a higher number of, if you want to set a higher decimal here so that you are alerted when your projects are going down to like a 0.7 calculation or lower. So I'll just set mine to 0.6. And that's going to tell me when I need to just take a look at those projects because they're not performing as well. Okay, so you save here. And then What I've done on my project object is I've created a list view called display on PMO dashboard. So all of the projects that I want to view for this are listed here. I don't have any filter criteria, so it's just showing me all of my projects. But I can then select which projects that I want to view on the PMO dashboard, and I'll mark this field true and update all of those. So once I have the projects that I want to view, then I can go ahead and take a look at the PMO dashboard. Another thing that you'll want to set up is your project financials. So just taking a look at one of the projects that I do have selected. I have my, information populated for my invoicing. I have it set to fixed price. And then I'm actually pulling my billing and cost rate from my project detail. So it's going to be the same billable hourly rate and cost hourly rate for everyone logging time. And then I have also allowed overtime here. All right, so my display on PMO dashboard field is marked true. I have a tax label for invoicing, and then I have my billing cycle set to milestones. So my completion will be based on that. And then there's further settings regarding the project financials that you'll want to make sure you have set up if you're using that cycle. And then I'm giving my client 14 days for payment. All right. So what I'll do is I'll show you the PMO dashboard first, and then we'll get into another project example and kind of how the time logs are relating to the actions and how that's affecting my project. So there's a few ways to get to the PMO dashboard. You can do so from the management pad and select the button here. You can also get there by typing in from your navigation and selecting here. That would be your standalone. And then if you are on your project record and you're using the mission control application, you can view your CPI and SPI on your Insights tab. And then in the Detail tab, you can get your current CPI and SPI for all of your records, your project milestone, and your actions. So your current value there. When you are viewing on your PMO dashboard, your dashboard will be updated according to the timestamp that you've selected here. So if you want to get the most up-to-date information on your projects, you might want to go directly to that record for the current value. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to set my master date to today and just view my current CPI and SPI. Overall, my projects are doing pretty great. I am running for budget. I am on point or directly on schedule as an average for my projects. And I am just a little bit behind on schedule, but still in the green for my projects here. So I can break this down for the projects that I do have included on this screen. I can go into each phase of the project and see what's contributing to the overall master CPI and SPI. So for my first project, if I break down the first milestone, I can see overall I'm running according to budget and schedule. But really, if I look directly at the actions that are contributing, one of my actions were behind on budget. And then one of my actions were over the amount that I scheduled for my budget. So you can have some differences there. And what this could mean is I might have had to schedule a different resource. So if I set a resource on my action and someone else needed to complete the work, but they are billed at a different rate, then that can cause a difference in my revenue here. You can also use Chatter and the resource assignment wizard from here. So say, for instance, in that scenario, I might want to, contact Colin and review that CPI and SPI. I can go directly to that action and make a post on Chatter like, hey, Colin, can you further discuss this, and so forth. I can also choose to assign a different resource. So if Colin is over capacity and things like that, I might want to view that kind of information, and that could be a turn of events for an action that I'm working on. So I don't have anyone contributing to this action. I can search for different resources and see if someone has better availability. I do see that there are a few days during this action where Colin was extremely over allocated. So I might want to assign that to someone else. I would just drag and drop the resource and then determine the amount of hours. So I'm not going to get into that right now, but that's what I would use this for. All right. And then you can also get into like even granular allocation with the hours distributor in that component. All right. So now that I've broken down my projects, I do see that I have a project I have a phase of the project that hasn't been started. And I might want to compare different times. So right now I'm just looking at a bird's eye view from today, but I might want to actually compare when the project was progressing. So these projects are pretty old. They've occurred last year. So I might want to go closer to that time period and kind of see what was going on around that time period. Okay, so in the week of January, it's going to calculate from the last working day of that week. I can see that I actually during that time was running behind on cost and schedule. So there could be different things that are affecting that. My initial project looks like it was already completed or already going along with a higher CPI and SPI. But my other projects were probably just beginning to progress and ramp up. So there were quite a few of them that were behind during that period. I'm going to actually break down this project so we can see what it looks like when a phase of the project has a lower CPI or SPI and what that could mean. So I have my Rip Curl project open, and I'm just going to take quickly a look at the overview and just check out some of the actions. So already noting a bit of my completion is not done yet. So not all of my hours were completed according to schedule. That can affect the amount of revenue that we collected. I could also go in and take a look at my time logs and see who is completing the work, how many hours they were completing against those time logs. And then I also notice for one of these actions, it's assigned to Colin, but Chris is the one who started to log the time against it. So if I go to that action and I just look at my scheduled values, I can see that I scheduled to collect a billable value of $9,000. I actually collected $9,150, so a little bit over there, but I did also have a higher cost. And then my actual profit and loss was $2,900 instead of $3,000 that I expected to collect there. Overall, it does look like the completion was updated to 100. So that can affect things. So say, for instance, I schedule a certain amount of hours on my action, but I've completed the action early. I didn't need as many hours, and I update the completion percentage to 100. then I'm also not collecting that amount of revenue that I thought I would collect for the action. So it's really important when using this that you're paying attention to the data entry. The data involved here is really important to the calculations. And what you plan out on your project will vastly affect how your project is progressing. All right. Are there any questions regarding the PMO dashboard or other features? I know we covered a lot of information there, so. If there is a calculation or breakdown that you guys would like to go back to, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to go back and show additional features as well. All right. I don't have any questions yet. I will stay online for a few more minutes. And if I don't get any, then I will go ahead and wrap up today's session. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any support requests or questions regarding documentation. I also have a few links listed here, and I highly recommend everyone checking out our next Kosmo Campfire session. It will be on configuring a custom mission control app. I know a lot of users might not need to see certain information in mission control, or you want to customize according to your business processes. Then, so we'll discuss how to create a custom app with only certain features, how to apply different permissions for your users so that they see select information based on permission sets, permission set groups, and profiles. We will also create custom page layouts and show how you can kind of change the information that is being viewed, and then how to add components to your Lightning pages. So if you have, for instance, you want to see your checklist item information on your action record page, there's some charts and stuff that can be used. Also, if you are updating your roles, access, and permissions, that's done within the Mission Control app. We will also review how to do some of that stuff as well. All right. Hello, thanks for the question. We will send out a recording to all of the viewers and registrants for the Kosmo Campfire. We also post it online on our webpage. So I will just go there quickly and show you the Kosmo Campfire website. So here you can see like what we're currently reviewing for Kosmo Campfire, what's upcoming, and then all of the previous discussions are posted here as well.